So before we get started, I wanted to ask a few questions. Are you running into challenges in your life you never expected before? Could better connections in your community, organization, and industry make a difference in your success? Are you ready to break down the walls of isolation? If you answer yes to any of these questions, you'll be glad you're here. If you didn't, no one will know if you start playing Minesweeper, so well, you should turn off your video probably though. Our speaker today has built 2 successful businesses and has taught thousands of people the value of developing powerful personal connections. When he isn't speaking about great networking, he lives in Ann Arbor with his wife and 2 daughters and trains as a master black belt in Taekwondo. Helping us create connections in a world of isolation, please join me in welcoming speaker, author, and guy whose sense of direction never worked quite right, Greg Peters.
Ooh. All right, well, thank you all. And yes, there is a story behind the lack of sense of direction. Before we jump into that, let's make sure everybody's got the chat feature figured out. So everybody get your, bring up the chat feature, put your fingers on the keys, and give a shout out to Hope for organizing this whole thing. And a big thank you to Eric for his technical expertise. So give that shout out in the chat area just to make sure we know you're there and they know that that you are appreciating them. There we go. Hooray to Hope and Eric. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are all here. All right. Well, moving on into the story, because I did promise you a story. Ages and ages ago, back before cell phones, before GPS, before all those fun little technologies, I was a hopeless case when it came to being out on the road. I would always get lost. I just could never find my way home. And one time in particular, this is probably when I was about 16. It's a late Friday night. I'm coming back from a football game out of town. I wasn't there to see football. I was there to see my girlfriend's band. She was in the marching band at the time. And I'm driving home, and I'm usually pretty good finding my way there because most people give you pretty good directions to find a location. But I always had a problem coming back, and especially when I was on the expressway, because I could never remember which exit was mine. Don't ask me why. It just was a mental block for me. So I'm coming home, and it's dark, and it's late, and I'm hunched over the wheel because I really am uncomfortable with this whole situation. And then I see a sign and I recognize the road, Adams Road. I know that road. That's the road that the high school is on. Yay, I know how to get home from here. So I pull off on the exit. It was not the right exit. So I get to the bottom of the exit, and of course it's a T intersection. I suddenly have no clue where I'm supposed to go. So I pick right. So I turn right. And I'm driving, and I realize I've made a horrible, horrible mistake. I'm driving down roads that I don't recognize. I don't recognize any of the buildings, any of the houses. I am well and truly lost. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been well and truly lost? Maybe not these days, but back in the day, oh my gosh, pit of the stomach. Oh, just really uncomfortable. And I happen to glance down and I see I'm also running a little low on gas. So it only adds to the tension. You know, my fingers are tight on the wheel, and I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing. And I keep turning at random, hoping that something's going to be familiar to me. And I get to these roads, and they're all dark, and up in the distance, I see a light. I thought, well, maybe it's, you know, it's a business, and maybe they have a payphone. For those of you who are younger, a payphone, it's a box on the wall that you put coins in so you can call people. This is back before the age of the cell phone. So I pull up and I turn off the car, and I realize it's a bar. Friday night, 11:30 p.m., and I'm at a bar. I'm 16 years old. I have never gone into a bar during daylight hours, let alone at night. So I thought, you know what, maybe there's someplace else I could go. And I tried to turn the car back on, and all I hear is, Love that Chevette. Oh my gosh. So I realized I have no choice but to go inside. And I go in, and you can imagine it's smoky, and there are people there that are normally there on a Friday night at 11:30, and I'm a 16-year-old kid, and I have no clue what I'm doing. And I see the payphone. I go, fortunately, I do have coins so I can call. But this in and of itself is a stress because my parents go to bed at 8:30. And so for me to call them at 11:30 is taking my life into my own hands. But I'm doing it. I call, I put the phone in, I call them up, ring, 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 click, hello, Dad, it's me. I'm really lost, Dad, and the car won't start, and I'm at this bar. It's on Maple Street. I don't know where I am, Dad. I'm really lost. And I'm scared. I don't know where I am. Can you help me, please? I'll be right there. Suddenly, it's like this metal band is let loose. My dad is coming. He's my hero. Oh my gosh. He shows up. He's even got a gas can just in case. And of course, he hops into the Chevette, turns the key, it turns right on. So I follow him home, and I kid you not, 2 blocks from where I had stopped at the bar, I'm suddenly on a street that I recognize. And it's funny how we can be alone in the dark, and suddenly someone can give us just a little bit of an idea, and we'll find ourselves on familiar ground. And the point we should take away from this is that I think we're all driving on a dark road right now. We're all feeling kind of alone. We're facing challenges that we've never had to face before. It's a dark time for us, and we all need someone's voice in the darkness to say, hey, I'll be there, I can help. So we're going to have a chat check-in right now. We're going to have these throughout the program. When you see the chat check-in come up, get your fingers on the keyboard, get ready to respond. There'll be a quick question, and we will just follow on from that. So everybody ready? Everybody got their fingers on the keyboard, ready to go. All right, moving in. On a scale from 0 to 10, how much has your life changed in the last 6 months? With 0 being it's the same old, to 10, I don't even recognize my life. An 8, 8, 8, 10 with an exclamation point. Wow, that's serious stuff there. I'm not seeing any 11s yet, so that's a good sign. Yeah, a lot of us have seen a lot of change. I'm seeing as low as a 5, but that indicates to me that, wow, we've got some pretty significant changes. And we all are. I mean, trying to deliver, contactless service, trying to deal with all these things that are coming, even the rules that we are trying to work toward can change on a daily or weekly basis. And that's got us all off balance. We're in the dark and we need some help. So here's the challenge that we're running into, is that a lot of the opportunities that we had to connect with each other are either gone entirely or they're severely restricted. And that can cause some real challenges, because now we're facing some issues of isolation and loneliness. We're going to do a quick poll here just to see where we're standing. How many people in your life right now do you feel comfortable standing within 6 feet without wearing masks or shields or plexiglass? Seeing some responses here. Looks like so far about half are feeling comfortable with 10 plus. You either have large families or you're just having to deal with a lot of people. All right, I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds to respond. All right. And Don says 10 plus. I'm guessing he's on his cell phone, so he can't respond to the polling. All right, let's take a look at it. Looks like about more than half are under 10. And if you think about it, especially in the line of work we're in right now, how many people did you used to feel comfortable within 6 feet of? I mean, hundreds probably. You never had a problem with your guests walking in and being within 6 feet of you. That was never even an issue. It never even occurred to us. But now we have to have all these barriers between us and the people around us. And it's causing not only physical barriers, but it's also causing social and emotional barriers between us. It's causing a lot of isolation and loneliness. And this is actually really dangerous for us, because I did a little bit of research and looked at some abstracts of research papers. Isolation and loneliness, I mean, they can be some really dangerous, harmful things. In fact, some of the papers I was reading, they said it's as harmful as a 15 cigarette a day habit. It's as bad as alcohol use disorder. It's twice as bad as obesity on both a physical and an emotional level. It can also be a contributing factor to depression, with all the negative aspects of that particular situation. And one of the papers I read said that, and this was published before the pandemic, that around half of the adults claim to be full or to feel lonely sometimes or always. And I can only imagine that has gotten worse since this whole situation came about. And the problem we're facing, as I said before, is that we don't have access to all the same options as far as being together. A lot of that has changed. We are separated physically. We are having to do things which we're actually having to maintain or eliminate these connections. We're no longer able to go to our annual conference because, well, the annual conference just isn't there. We're having to do things that are much more virtual. And so the challenge that comes up is that we need to be much more proactive about our connections, because it's our connections, it's our relationships, which are going to help us get through this whole situation. So we need to have a process, and I've come up with just 3 steps that we can follow to be more connected to our networks, to our community, and to our industry, and to hopefully make us more successful as a result. Step number 1 is follow your group. PRLA is out there. They've got programs running that we can get into. I know when this all came down for us as in the speaker community, this was huge because let's face it, speakers, we go and stand in front of people and give presentations. Well, if those opportunities are no longer there, that can really affect us quite seriously. NSA National Speakers Association National, to which I'm a member, they shortly after, like a few days after this all came down, they started having weekly fireside chats with some of the rock stars in our industry to talk about some of the challenges they themselves are facing and some of the solutions they've come up with. NSA Michigan, our local chapter, they started having not only happy hours, but they had also converted all of our programs to be virtual so that we were still seeing each other. And on top of that, those virtual programs included a portion where we were face-to-face with each other. They would use the breakout room feature so that we could actually see each other and talk with each other and connect in a personal way. PRLA has all these events. I know I looked in the past month or so, they had programs, one on Temple University, the School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management. They had a program on recruiting, onboarding, and work opportunity tax credits. And I know they've got one coming up that Eric just told me about on de-escalation, dealing with the guests who come in and don't want to wear masks and how you deal with those situations. The important thing about staying connected with our groups, whether that's our professional group or our social groups, is that they're the people who really understand where we're coming from. They understand the challenges that we're facing. They can really identify, but more than that, often they have not only faced those same problems, they may have actually found solutions to them. So being connected with those people in our industry groups, they're the ones that can help us be successful despite all the challenges we're facing. One other thing I noticed also is that you have a number of local chapters as a part of PRLA, and many of them are still having their virtual programs. You're no longer limited geographically. You could actually probably reach out to many of those local chapters. If they've got an event going on that seems interesting, why not check in and be connected with people all across the state? All right, so We're moving on. This is our next chat check-in. Everybody, fingers on the keyboards. One of the challenges we're facing right now is we have a lot of opportunities and obligations and other things that are kind of stressing us out in our lives. I mean, with work, we're faced with how to deliver contactless service or new cleaning protocols or how to maintain a healthy staff. At home, we're having to deal with how to keep our family healthy. How are we taking care of our aging relatives? How are we educating our children, or sometimes just simply keeping them amused so they don't burn down the house? You know, I see opportunities in my email box almost every day. I was looking, like in the past week, I've received offers for webinars on 11 easy tools that I need and free training on Tuesday. I can make a mint by giving away my expertise. And of course, we cannot forget the sales shape up. I don't know about you, you're probably receiving some of those same or similar offers. So there's a lot of stuff coming in. So let me ask you this. Here's your chat check-in. Are all those opportunities and obligations, are they starting to feel overwhelming? If they are, type yes into the chat. Wow, we got some serious yes on that from Emily. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm seeing a lot of yeses there. It can be really overwhelming, and it can get to the point that we can't really deal with all the extra opportunities. Charlene, I got to admire you, my hero, that you are dealing with everything so well. Great job. So moving forward, any things that we do, we don't want to add to the pile. Because if I tell you, in order to stay connected, you've got to do this new thing and this new thing and this new thing, you're going to say, no, that's not going to happen. I just can't handle that. So let's start easy. Step number 2, after we follow the group, step number 2, simply show you care. Simply, I'm emphasizing simply, and I got this from a friend of mine. I mentioned I was a part of the NSA Michigan chapter. I was actually on the board, and I was offered the opportunity to be the president of the board. And because of my ego, I said, well, yes, you know, the power. Bad plan, because I realized not long after that I had never been the president of a professional association chapter ever in my life, or anything really remotely like that. So I had no clue what I was doing. So the very first thing I started doing was reaching out to every single past president that I could reach and who would respond to me. And most of them did, and I got some great advice from each of them. And one of them in particular, I'm sitting down with my good friend Pam Wise. She'd been a president twice, and we were having breakfast at the local Coney Island. And I said, so what advice do you have for me? She said, okay, well, Greg, here's the thing. You need to remember that your board it's a volunteer organization. So you're going to have a lot of responsibilities that you need to accomplish over the year. And each of them are going to have tasks that are supposed to get done. When you call them up or when you reach out to them to find out how they're doing with their particular tasks, before you ask what they've accomplished, ask them how they're doing as a person. Ask them how their lives are going. She says, you and I, we are both very goal-oriented, very analytic, and we can forget about that. It's the person behind the tasks that makes the difference. And that has made a huge difference, not only when I was working as the president, but also just in my everyday life, having to remember that the people I'm dealing with, they're people first, and then whatever they are afterward. So the very simple thing we're going to do, this very small change, at the beginning of any of your communications, whether they are texts, whether they are email, whether they are phone calls, the very first thing you're going to do is ask them maybe one of these phrases. Now, before we get to business, I just want to check in with you. Are you and your family doing okay? How are you doing? Starting out a message like that just tells them you care about them as a person, that you're getting across this connection as people, as individuals, as opposed to people who are trying to get a job done. Get connected as people first, and you'll be surprised at how much better the work goes. All right, so simple change. Now I'm going to offer one that's a little bit more involved, one that you might have to do one additional thing, but hopefully it's something that's so simple that you won't have any problem with. Create a system for connection. Keep it simple. I created a system. I call it Connect 5. If we don't have a system, then we will get to our, we'll get around to our connections. We'll get around to our networking, and it'll never happen. So having a system is important. I call mine Connect 5. All it is each day I reach out to one additional person, each working day, just one person, sending an extra email, making an extra call. Could most people handle one additional call or one additional email a day? Probably. So who are you going to reach out to? Well, it's going to be a who and when, because we have to be careful. Sometimes we only reach out to a very narrow slice of our network, and we're losing out on opportunity when that happens. So what I'm going to recommend is that each day you're reaching out to a different category of people. So we'll start out, and these categories are pretty much arbitrary. They're just the ones that I came up with, but just there's some ideas. If you want to come up with different categories, feel free, go ahead. First one, most people think of Monday as the beginning of the work week, so why not make it Monday is connections with the people you work with. Now, these could be your coworkers, these could be your subordinates, these could be the supervisors, but they could also be your customers, they could be your guests. How could you reach out to them and make their lives just one little bit better because you're reaching out to them? On Tuesday, make it the trade day. These would be all the people you are in the same group as. So PRLA, maybe some of you are members of Meeting Planners International, MPI. Maybe you're a part of a Toastmasters group. Maybe you're a part of a church. Any groups that you're a part of, this is the time to reach out to them. Wednesday, vendors, or you can think of it Wednesday, vendors. These are all the people that are in your life who help you to achieve whatever it is you're trying to do. These could be the vendors that help you with your restaurant or your hotel. They could be your personal vendors. They could be your accountant, your attorney. They could be your hairdresser. All the people that you work with that make your life easier, that help you get things done. Take a few moments to reach out to them. Thursday. Turn back time, or throwback Thursday. This is the day to remember all the people you've forgotten. And I know one or two of you out there right now are thinking, well, if I've forgotten them, how do I remember to reach out to them? That doesn't make sense. I'm sure many of you have email archives that stretch back years. Why not look back through them and see who you were talking to 4 years ago and, reach back out to them. Check out just your contact list. I'm sure that you've got people in your address book that you haven't said hello to in a year or two. Look at your social media, either your Facebook or your LinkedIn. Reach out to them, because I know that there are people. I know I've got people in my LinkedIn list that I don't think I've talked to in 4 or 5 years. This is your opportunity to reach out, and I know it may feel a little uncomfortable. Because let's face it, we haven't reached out to them in 4 or 5 years, but guess what? They didn't reach out to you either. So they're probably feeling that same level of discomfort, if they're even thinking of you at all. Reach out to them, say, hey, I just saw your name pop up and I realize we haven't talked in a while. I just wanted to say hello. And we all feel pretty good when people are thinking of us, right? Hope you'd agree with that, right? Someone reached out to you from 4 or 5 years ago and said, hey, Hope, I was just thinking of you. You'd feel pretty good, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I feel really good, actually.
Because we love having people thinking about us. All right. So Friday.
Can I chime in on something on that?
Donald, yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this when you say turn back time. I have a friend of mine that he's in business also, in restaurant business or whatever, and we were really good friends, and we just stayed connected. I'm meeting him at 12 o'clock for coffee.
Excellent, Donald.
Take a time. I'm gonna tell them, take a picture of this and show them what I did for turn back time.
Excellent. You're rocking it, man. All right. All right. And then Friday, friends and family. You know, it's funny. A lot of us don't actually think of our friends and family as being part of our network. They're actually the tightest in. They're the closest part of our network. And we don't think about reaching out to them. It was about probably 8 years ago now. I gave a presentation at this place. It was a program called Shifting Gears. And this was a program put on by the state of Michigan to support executives who had lost their jobs, especially executives in their 50s who had lost their jobs, and were now looking for what the next thing was going to be for them. And a lot of them were under a lot of stress. I mean, one guy in particular, he actually won an hour of consulting with me. He and I sat down, and his name was Bob, and he had been out of work for 2 years. And, you know, at one time he had been an executive at an auto company, and suddenly he is 2 years out of work. He had sent out hundreds of resumes, been unable to find a job. They were starting to have to dip into their long-term savings, which was just putting a lot of stress on the family. So you can imagine that he's running into a lot of difficulties. And we sat down and we kind of had a chat about his networking process and how he was reaching out and who he was talking to. And about 2 months later, I got an email from him, and the subject was, "This is what you get for talking with Greg Peters." He had started reaching out to his family as part of his network and describing exactly what he was looking for in a job. His family had never known what he was looking for. And it turned out one of his cousins reached back to him and said, "Hey, Bob, there is the company I'm working with right now. They have an executive position open. You know, I'd be happy to put in a good word for you." And so it happened, and Bob ended up getting this dream job at this company, and just it ended up working out right just because he started reaching out to his family and recognizing that they were part of his network. So this is our huge list of possible categories. You can choose your own categories, but make sure that you have different areas in your network that you're reaching out to, because otherwise you may focus too tightly on a narrow slice and lose out on the opportunities of broadening your network. So the next question is how? How are you going to reach out to these people? Well, it's pretty much clear. It's all about the technology. You have got to make sure you are reaching out in the right way so that they are going to pay attention to you. And right now we're going to have a quick poll to see if you know what the right way is. So we're going, stop sharing those. We're going to go ahead and see what the best tech is. All right, what's the best tech for connection outreach? Video conference, phone, text, social media, singing telegram, or none of the above?
I don't see the poll.
Yeah, the poll's not showing.
Oh, well, that's not good. Let's try that one more time. Fortunately, everyone's patient when we have these slight snafus. All right, are we seeing it now?
Yep, there you go.
All right, there we go. All right, video conference is off to a strong start. Social media is coming up quick. Oh, the phone is moving up. Oh, the phone is in the lead. Phone is rocketing now. Now we have a late entry in text. We're moving along. Singing telegram still bringing up the rear. All right, and text is still second to last. Phone is really pushing out there. Oh my gosh, look at it go, look at it go. I'm gonna give you 10 more seconds to get in your opinion on the best technology for reaching out to your connections. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're gonna end the polling now. Wow, let's take a look at that. Looks like the phone is definitely a popular one. The best tech is definitely the phone, right? Video conferencing came in a distant second. Social media, text. No one picked the singing telegram. I'm shocked. But you know what? I hate to tell you, the best is actually none of the above. because it's not about the technology. It's about your message. It's about what you're saying, not the mechanism through which you're saying it. So there are 2 or 3 parts of this message, depending on how comfortable you are with it. Can anyone guess what the first part of the message is? Type it into chat if you can guess what the first part of the message should be. I'll give you a hint. We talked about it already. Ask them how they're doing. Yes, Eric Adams, thank you so much. Emily, I care about you. How are you? Janet, thank you so much. Yes, you were paying attention. Yes, the first part of this message should literally be, how are you doing? Show that you care. All right, the second part of this message leads to another story. I should have warned you right at the beginning. I am a speaker, and so I tell stories all the time. So these are my daughters. And yes, they are absolutely as goofy as they look in this picture. That's Kaylee on the left. She is currently 12, but in this picture, she was in 5th grade. And then Abby on the right. In this picture, she was in 1st grade. And yes, that is their school back when we still went to school in person. And it's funny. It was not long after this picture was taken. I was dropping them off at school. And we always, especially when it's nice weather, we would stop at this little parking space across the park from the school, and we would walk in through the park. So it was just a nice start to the day. And Kaylee, she jumps out of the car, blows me a kiss, bye Dad, and is running down the pathway to the school before I'm even out of the car. Because apparently, being seen with your parent is one of the worst things that can happen to a 5th grader. And so, heaven forfend that actually happened. Abby, on the other hand, we both get out together, and she takes my hand and we start walking down the path together. And she's just chit-chattering. And, I was feeling a little guilty that Kaylee had run ahead. And I thought, maybe Abby's not comfortable with me coming in with her either. I said, Abby, sweetie, if you're ever uncomfortable with me walking you into school, you just have to let me know. You won't hurt my feelings. That was a lie. It would have killed me. She said, Daddy, I want you to walk me to school always. Oh, does a daddy's heart good. So we're walking in. She's just telling me about all the things that are going on inside her head, all the things to look forward to that day. And we walk hand in hand into the school. I walk her right to her classroom. And we had this whole saying goodbye process. First thing is I have to kneel down on the ground, and she backs up. I've convinced her that she doesn't need to back up that far anymore, but I hold out my arms, and she comes running as fast as she can and leaps into the air and into my arms to give me a hug goodbye. We call it the running hug. Good for a daddy's heart, not so good for his back. And then I give her the grizzly bear kiss because I'm often unshaven. So I give her the grizzly bear kiss. She has to give me the grizzly cub kiss. And then we do our high five combination. We have high five, fist bump, side, top, bottom, and yeah. And then one final kiss on top of the head. And you have a good day. I love you. And off she goes to class. I love those moments. And then I start to feel kind of sad inside that I don't get to have that with Kaylee anymore. And I decided to do a pretty risky thing. I decided to go over to Kaylee's classroom and just kind of peek in on her, see how she's doing. So I get over there and I look in, and there she is. She is this obvious, she's confident, she's moving around the room, this wonderful young person. And she's obviously been given some responsibilities by the teacher, and she's just wholly there and together. And I'm so proud of her. And I realized in that moment that to each child, I'm giving them what they need. And if I tried to force the other way on them, if I tried to give Kaylee the big kisses and the hugs and everything, she would be mortified. And if I tried to just send Abby off to class without me, she would be terribly sad. Each child needed their own thing. And this is same with the people in our network. They each need their own things. They need their own support. So the second part of our message should be, what are you working on? What are your challenges right now? What are you facing? How are you dealing with it? Because this might give us an opportunity to reach out and help them. We can be their hero. Who knows, they might be working on something that we're working on at the same time. And then we can actually brainstorm on it. Two minds are better than one. We might be able to find the solution faster and easier. So that's the second part of the message. Now, the third part. The third part is one that you have to decide if you're comfortable with. And that's kind of the flip of the second part, is can you give me some advice? Actually reaching out to your network and saying, hey, I've got some challenges. Could you please help me? That's, yeah, it's going to take a little bit more for you to feel comfortable doing that, but be specific, especially if you think that there's a specific thing that they can help you with. Ask them. Most people are not offended if you're asking for help. Hope, would you agree with that? Yeah, I'm getting the thumbs up from Hope. She's not going to go. She's not going to do the unmute just to say yes. I agree with you, Greg. So ask them for some help. All right. Chat check-in time. Get your fingers on the keyboard. Are you ready? Are you ready? Emily, are you ready? Okay. Here's the chat check-in. Enter one challenge that you are facing right now in the chat box. One challenge. And please make it something you're willing to share and won't make everyone uncomfortable. So one challenge. This is your network right here, folks. Put your challenge in. What's one challenge that you're facing? When to bring back staff? Oh, great. Yeah, that's a serious challenge. How to best help save my community businesses? Oh, definitely. Helping my elderly father and moving to a new apartment. Yeah, these could be personal challenges that you're facing as well. This doesn't have to only be about business. Networking shouldn't only be about business. It's about connection. It's about relationships. Keep putting them in there. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes here to put them in, because this is the important part. This is you reaching out. This is you saying, hey, I could use some help. You are my people. You are facing the same challenges I am. All right, I'm gonna keep putting it in if you get the chance. How to make my staff want to come back. Yeah, definitely. That could be a challenge. All right. Now, we are going to move forward because now I have a challenge for you. This is a serious challenge. Look back through all the other people's challenges that are in the chat box. Look back through them. Find one that you think you can help with, or one that you're facing right now, and send that person a private chat offering to help with their contact information. You can do that by just clicking on their name, or you can go to the drop-down box below, and instead of saying to everyone, select just to that one person and tell them that you are happy to help. Here's your contact information. This is how we connect with each other. This is how we can help each other. This is engaging with each other. I'm assuming everyone's doing that right now because we tested it, right? We were able to do that. Eric?
I just want to double check with you. I did have it set so that I only could chat with everyone, but I just changed it. So you should be able to chat with anyone now. So.
All right. So you can privately chat with anyone. Please, please do that. All right. So while you're finishing that up, remember, there are 3 steps to connect in this. Really simple. Follow your group. Keep staying connected with the PRLA and your local chapters. Simply show you care. Just start out all of your messages. Yeah, okay, if it's the 4th time you're emailing the same person, you don't have to put it up there for a 4th time, but the first time, definitely. Show you care about them as a person. And finally, create and follow a system of connection. All right, now we are going to move into having the opportunity for some questions and takeaways. And to do this, you are actually going to get to talk to each other. Eric is going to be putting us into breakout rooms with 3 or 4 people in each one. And it is your goal as a group to come up with one question about networking. It doesn't even necessarily have to be about the things we talked about today. And one takeaway from what we talked about today, or something that sprang up, like Donald helped us out with telling us about how he was going to be connecting with someone from his past. So Eric, you about ready with that?
Yep. Hold on one second here.
All right, so you are about to get the notice that you're going to go into a breakout room, so be ready to go in there. And then we're going to pull you out in about 3 or 4 minutes. For those of you who haven't left yet, the person who is first in alphabetical order is going to be your spokesperson. All right, are we all back now? All right, so the spokesperson for your room will be the person who is alphabetically first by first name. And Eric is going to tell you, so we start out with group 1. Eric, how many groups did we have?
We ended up with, let me see, 1, 2, 3, I think there's 5 rooms, but yeah, 5 rooms.
Excellent. All right, so that's just about perfect. So let's go ahead with room number 1. Who is our spokesperson for room number 1?
That would be David Kurishan. Am I pronouncing the last name right?
David, are you there?
I see him.
I see him, but he is video off. And wait, wasn't David the one that didn't go into a room?
Oh, maybe he did not. He was Emily. She was next to the
Emily. Was it Emily Nichols or?
Emily Nichols, sorry, yes.
All right, so Emily, you're up. What did your room come up with as far as a takeaway or a question? You have to, there you go.
We talked just a little bit about the challenge of when to bring back staff and how to deal with that. And there was a little bit about just the economic impact of this for, our respective organizations.
Okay, so instead of coming up with a good question about networking, you talked about real information. So
I think we missed the question, so we weren't sure what we were supposed to talk about. So we started with the what had people shared as their biggest challenge.
Okay, so being able to actually reach out to each other, that's good. You know what? Hey, if you ended up networking in there instead of just coming up with a question, A+ on that one. Good job, guys. All right, group number 2.
That would be Charlene Cherokee.
Charlene.
We kind of missed the question too. So we were just talking about where everybody, where we are and what's going on and getting back. The uncertainty of kind of sometimes how policies or rules, it's almost like they're made up as you go. And I don't mean that in a rebellious way, but there was the one gentleman who had a restaurant and what he's doing to get by, and
okay.
And just
So
just what the new normal possibly, whatever that's going to be.
All right, so if you were talking about specific issues that you were having, did you share contact information, or do you know each other's contact information?
We did not. It was really quick. So by the time we got in there and started talking and coming back, we didn't have a chance.
Okay, so be sure to reach out to other members of your group. Go ahead and do a private chat to them right now if you want.
Sure.
All right. Group number 3. Thank you, Charlene.
Group number 3 is Hannah Boozle.
I'm actually going to pass it over to Hope, as she did lots, or Janet, because they did a lot more talking than I did.
Okay.
Way to pass the baton.
Well, I'm going to pass it to Janet, though, since I put this together. I'm a pure LA staff member, so.
All right. Well, again, I don't think we quite knew what the question was either. So we discussed, like one of the things that I've done in the past was to write a handwritten note to people when I see them doing something special or I see it in the paper. I'll send them a copy and, a little kudos to them. A handwritten note is, just not enough anymore. Hannah, I almost heard what you were saying before we got sucked back into the big room. So I'm not really sure what your portion of the take was. We didn't get very far. Can you fill us in on that part?
I just said that earlier in the conversation, they asked how many people we are comfortable with without masks on, and the number that was associated, and how we were seeing that lots of the networking and the events that are being hosted in our center, people are actually wanting to come back, and how high, even with some of those hesitations for individuals, how many people actually want that interaction, want that connection that they previously had.
Well, I definitely think I think they're desperate for that. And Janet, to your message, that the sending out the handwritten note, that is huge. I know it's not a restaurant, but you know we get our cat food from the local Pet Supplies Plus, and I do curbside pickup, and I will be going back to them probably forevermore. They're locally owned, and they put a handwritten note in every bag. So I know that I am connecting with the owner and the people who actually work there, and that's such a huge thing for me to be personally connected to them. Yeah, I'm sure he writes the same note to everybody, but honestly, it's that little extra bit that he did that makes a huge difference to us.
And you realize that by the reaction that the person gives you, it's huge.
Yes, definitely. All right, so that was group 3. This is group 4 in the session where I apparently forgot to tell them what they were supposed to be doing. So let's see what group 4 came up with.
I gotta apologize because it probably was my fault being too quick on the trigger of putting everyone into but the group 4 was actually you and Lily. So that's Lily.
So Lily, did you come up with any questions about networking or takeaways regarding this program?
No specific questions. We are at the Comfort Suites working on putting together a virtual sales blitz sort of thing. We're trying to establish, how many clients would be best to have on each call, so we can show them our new procedures and systems, and welcome them back hopefully soon. So.
Excellent. And I think my takeaway is make sure I am very clear about what you're supposed to be doing in your breakout room. All right, and you had one more group there, Eric?
The last group, Bev Gruber. Hi, Bev.
Is that Beth?
Hi.
Beverly, yeah.
Beverly.
We too, of course, didn't know the question. We mainly talked about networking with family and how that has been such a problem this year. You just can't get together with people. So that was what we discussed. So
having those virtual happy hours with family sometimes helps. But it's a challenge with any group that we're a part of, and we just have to be a little bit more proactive about it. Unfortunately, we just don't have those other opportunities anymore. So thank you, Beverly. All right. Well, moving forward, I do have a gift for you, and I want to thank you all for bringing me into your computers today. So my gift to you, if you are interested, I have a weekly networking tip, which is you receive it once a week, obviously. It's a 1.5 minute long audio plus the transcript in case you would like to learn a little bit more about networking. I am putting the URL in the chat so that you don't have to do the picture of the QR code or anything. It's also going to include a digital copy of my Connection Quick Tips audio program. It's about a 45-minute long program. If you'd like to receive those absolutely free of charge, just follow the link and go ahead and sign up, and I'd be happy to send those to you. All right, we have one final chat check-in, which I know is going to make that link go away. So, that's the way it goes, I guess. I'll repost it. One final chat check-in. Are you ready? Fingers on the keyboards. Type the first name of one person whom you will reach out to before you leave work today. One person, first name, so I don't know, I won't be following up for them myself. Ben, Jeff, Jordan, know that they will love to hear from you. Know that they will love to connect with you. You will be the person that starts creating the community, the resources that we need. Okay. There's my crazy kids again. A lot of us are feeling some of the absolute terror and horror that my children are trying to express right here. Remember, it may feel like we're driving down that dark road all by ourselves with challenges that we don't know how we're going to deal with them, but we don't have to do it alone. Just like I did, you just got to go to that scary place, reach out to your network, and I'm sure that there will be a voice there saying, I can help. So thank you so much for bringing me in. I look forward to chatting with any of you who would like to reach out to me. I'm a very lonely person, so if you would like to check in with me on LinkedIn or Facebook, please just send me an invitation. Tell me it was you met me as a part of this program, and I'll be happy to connect with you. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this back over to Hope. Hope, you still there?
I am still here. Thank you, Greg, and thank you everybody for participating. I know this is a little different than our normal webinars, but I think it was nice, the back and forth and being able to communicate. We have recorded this webinar. We will send it out to everybody to be able to go back and share, and maybe even, you know, talk with your employees and implement some things to help them. And Greg's contact information's here. Please reach out to Greg if you, you know, if you have future things that you might want to have him be part of. And with that, I'm going to give everybody back a few minutes of their day. But Greg, thank you so much. This was very, very informative. It was very great.
Thank you all.
And everybody have a safe and great rest of their week.